Hey, if you're a notary, I bet you've been in this exact situation. A signer slides a document over to you and says, "And I'm gonna need an apostille for this." It's a phrase that can really make your heart skip a beat if you're not ready for it. But don't you worry, because today we are going to clear all of this up for you.
Right? It seems like such a simple question, but the answer can feel super complicated in the moment. The signer is looking right at you, totally expecting you to be the expert. Understanding what comes next isn't just nice to know, it's absolutely essential for your confidence as a notary.
And here's the number one myth we've got to bust right now. Your signer almost always thinks that you are the one who provides the apostille, but that's just not how it works, not even close. Getting this straight not only saves you from a really awkward moment, but helps you guide your client in the right direction.
So, first things first, let's just pull back the curtain and demystify this whole apostille thing, what it is and why it even matters in the first place.
Okay, so what is it really? Well, an apostille or an authentication certificate is basically a stamp of approval on you, the notary. That's it. It has nothing to do with what's actually in the power of attorney or the affidavit. All it does is tell a foreign government, yep, this person is a real, legitimate notary public where they live, and their commission is active. It's all about verifying your authority. Now, this is where it gets interesting. The process actually splits off into two different paths, and it all depends on where the document is going. If it's headed to a country that's part of the Hague Convention, it gets a simple apostille. Easy peasy. But if the country is not part of that convention, it needs something called an authentication, which can be a much more complicated process. So it really just comes down to the final destination. And what kind of documents are we even talking about here? Oh, it's a huge range. We're talking about things like international adoptions, setting up a business overseas, or giving someone power of attorney to handle your affairs in another country. You can see these are really high-stakes documents, which is exactly why verifying the notarization itself is so incredibly important. Which brings us to the most important part of all this for you. What is your role in this process? Let's get crystal clear on what you are and, more importantly, what you are not responsible for. This right here is the golden rule. You might want to commit this one to memory. It is always up to your signer, not you, to request the apostille from the right government agency. Your job, your responsibility, ends with the notarization. Realizing this can lift a huge, huge weight off your shoulders. Let's break it down even simpler. Your job? To perform a perfect, flawless notarization. Seriously, any little mistake could get the whole thing rejected. So that's where 100% of your focus needs to be. Now, what's not your job? You don't issue the apostille, you don't go get the apostille, and you definitely don't determine if an apostille or an authentication is needed. That is all on the signer. So what actually happens after the signer leaves your office? Well, they take that document you just notarized and send it, usually with a form, to their Secretary of State. Then, the state office looks at the destination country and figures out which certificate it needs. Finally, they print that certificate out and physically attach it to the document. See, you're not involved in any of those steps. But hang on a second. What if we looked at this whole confusing situation from a different angle? What if this problem is actually a business opportunity? Now that you understand the process, could you maybe turn that knowledge into a new stream of income? Let's explore that. This is the big question, isn't it? If you can't issue them as a notary, does that just mean you can't be involved at all? Well, the answer might actually surprise you. You absolutely can, but, and this is the most important part, it has absolutely nothing to do with your notary commission. You'd be acting as a courier, an agent, basically a helper, offering a totally separate non-notarial service to your clients. So how would that work? Well, you'd charge a separate courier fee to literally take the client's notarized documents to the Secretary of State's office, handle all the paperwork, and then bring the finished package back to them. I mean, think about it. That's a super valuable service for people who are confused or just don't have time. And it's an especially amazing option if you happen to live near your state capital.
All right, let's bring it all home. When you boil it all down, what's the one key takeaway from all of this?
Here it is, your duty, your legal responsibility as a notary. It begins and it ends with a perfect notarization. Everything that happens after that, the request, the paperwork, which certificate they need, that all belongs to the signer. Knowing where that line is protects you and lets you educate your clients with total confidence. So, at the end of the day, you now have some really valuable knowledge that most people, including a lot of notaries, just don't have. The only question left is, what are you going to do with it? Are you going to use it to just be a more confident professional notary? Or maybe you'll use it to build a whole new side business. The choice is yours.